Hey, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. I know this is one of the latest live recordings I've done, but this is the anti-regulation of religions open response to the new commissioners of the Civil Rights Commission, and this was triggered by a report that appeared on the Daily Maverick of the 25th of July on, I think it's Professor LUKA David MOSOMA's utterances on the focus of the new Civil Rights Commission. And it reads, and we are going to forward this to Civil Rights Commission, and we hope that it gets the necessary attention. Not that we're begging for attention, we're prepared to fight, but maybe they could save us the legal fees. But also, you see, politicians have a way of recycling same ideas but using different terminology. I've worked for politicians. I worked for government from 84 to 86, 89 to 98, 2001 to 2003. And I've written political reports. I've consulted with politicians. I've made presentations to high commissions. I've done a lot of lobbying around the world. The organization I worked for, Prison Fellowship International, I was part of the South African Chartered Group. We consulted for the United Nations as on the Schedule 2 category. We did a lot of work. We did a lot of lobbying around the world for criminal justice reforms. So I know that terminology to politicians means nothing. They circulate the same ideas using different terms, and you get a false sense of relief. When they come and say apartheid, and the whole world goes, wow, they'll go, no, separate development. And you think, okay, they've ditched apartheid, they're talking separate development. But do not be misled by the terminology and the language that politicians use. Now, I'm reading a report by Chanel Retief, and I'm going to respond paragraph by paragraph, because I want you, anti-regulation of religion reformers, to take note of the concerns that I shall bring forth here. And we're going to engage the new Civil Rights Commission, the commissioners, robustly on this. And if they won't give us a hearing, that's fine, we shall meet somewhere. But definitely we shall meet, but we refuse to be ignored. Here it goes. Chantal Retief for the Daily Maverick reports, the newly appointed Commission on Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Rights officials promise to help regulate people's behavior and promote freedom to practice religion. That's dubious. They promise to help regulate people's behavior. If it implies them clamping down on religious personnel, then there's going to be trouble. I don't know, maybe they'll have to explain what helping to regulate people's behavior. People's behavior generally is regulated by a volume of laws that would apply to them, whether they were religious or irreligious. So when you set out to specifically help regulate people's behavior, it's a dubious thing. Don't forget this. Already Parliament found their recommendations unworkable, unnecessary, and unconstitutional. And every individual, religious or irreligious, has rights already enshrined in the Constitution. And they're different, we're regulated. Taxes, home affairs, foreign affairs, we're regulated already. So it stands to be seen what regulating people's behavior, because it's not their job. They exist for the promotion and the protection of the cultural, religious, and linguistic rights. They don't exist for any form of regulation. Any attempt at regulating anybody by the Civil Rights Commission shall be met with opposition. We hate regulation. Whatever context you mention regulation in, raises our eye. We get highly irritated. So we will oppose any attempt at regulating people's behavior. There are enough laws. There are enough law enforcement agencies. And whatever their definition. And you see, when a politician talks, regulate people's behavior, and they're silent on it, you cannot go to bed because you never know what the thinking behind it was. So they promise to help regulate people's behavior and promote the freedom to practice religion. This is their mandate. They were appointed to promote the freedom to practice religion. And they also promised to form alliances and pinpoint ring doors. This we support. We have always said in every interview, the perpetrators of crimes are known. And bring them to book. You don't set out to group people according to what one of their own committed. Whatever they mean, we are for them doing their work to promote religious freedom. They also promise to form alliances or to pinpoint ring doors. And we are availing ourselves as part of those alliances that they want to form because we are an interest group. Now they're going to say they have noted an increase in dubious religious practices such as the commercialization of religion and the abuse of other people's belief system. If the Civil Rights Commission are saying they have noted an increase in dubious religious practices such as the commercialization of religion, we hope they will include the halal scam. You can never talk about the commercialization of religion and not talk about how through the Islamic Judicial Council religion has been commercialized. I'm not a Muslim. I would never care if there's a halal stamp or not. But we know the halal stamps on our food is generating income for the Islamic Judicial Council. So we welcome the professor's utterances on challenging and on being concerned about an increase in the commercialization of religion and the abuse of other people's belief system. It's an abuse of my belief system when in my home Kellogg's have halal stamp, Rama magazine, margarine has halal stamp, and I'm glad you are engaging, and we shall hold you to your promise that you said you are concerned about the commercialization of religion and the abuse of other people's belief system. It's an abuse of my belief system. I'm a Christian. I'm born again. The Bible says food is sanctified by prayer. Food is not sanctified by an Islamic stamp on my rice, Islamic stamp on my butter. So we welcome you and we shall hold you accountable. We shall remind you that you said you shall investigate thoroughly the issue of commercialization of religion. And we welcome this because unless your definition of religion is Christianity, and unless your definition of Christianity is the Pentecostal charismatic churches, unless your definition of Pentecostal charismatic churches is your African indigenous churches, we are going to engage you, Professor, and we shall hold you responsible that you said at the beginning of your term, you're going to investigate the commercialization of religion. We are saying on the table we put halal. We cannot talk around it. I would never pay for oil. I would never pay for holy water. I'll never pay for holy sprays. And I'm saying you are going for the small fish. Bushiri spray is 100 rand. Bushiri allegedly wants and LUKA 7,000 for consultation. You can't be obsessed with investigating thousands and hundreds and ignore a multi-billion rand industry like halal. So we welcome you and we challenge you to go on. This tape will make its way to the professor's hand. We shall ensure that it does so. Now they talk about the highly televised cases, but before then, he says the newly appointed chairman said at a press briefing on 25 July that recent behavior included emotional, physical, spiritual, financial, and psychological abuse of communities across religious, cultural, and language spectrums. And we hope your investigation will include how witchcraft initiates, traditional healing initiates, eat raw cow meat, and they grunt like dogs as they do so. We hope, and because if you're going to look at the emotional, physical, spiritual, financial, psychological abuse of communities across the religious, cultural, language spectrums, we welcome you. And we want you to start investigating the deaths in initiation schools, because that's an abuse of people's belief system. When you tell the young man that to pass from boyhood to manhood, they have to go to initiation schools, but we're burying hundreds every year, that's an abuse of their belief system. Those young men and their parents never go to the initiation schools with the intention not to come back. So we welcome you. We're going to engage you vigorously and will hold you accountable to the statements you made. But then we also need to see, can the ancestors grant permission for someone to practice busangoma without dehumanizing them? What is it about people eating a full cow raw? What does it have to do with them appeasing the ancestors? We welcome you. We welcome the abuse of people in churches, in nightclubs, in initiation schools, in any sphere of society. So we shall hold you accountable to that. So we welcome you and we shall engage you. Now, he talks about the case of Omotoso, but then he says something very disturbing. Let me read this paragraph. The highly publicized cases the professor referred to include that of televangelist Omotoso, who allegedly used religion to sexually abuse young women. And I hope while we are there, we're going to investigate the Catholic Church and the abuse of children, the pedophilia there. Because Omotoso is no more guilty than the Catholic hierarchy, who around the world have been accused and convicted in some instances for the abuse of young boys. So while you're concerned about the abuse of young girls, we say we are also concerned about the abuse of young boys by Catholic priests and the pedophilia there. So spread it out. Unless your definition of religion is only Christian. Let's look at that. And then as well as Lusanda Sulani and Zukiso Sito, who face 63 charges and 34 alternative counts, which include charges of rape, sexual assault, human trafficking, and racketeering. We welcome these. These are atrocities. And they are not, we say they don't have any place in society, not just in churches. But now he goes on to say, the 2016 incident in which a pastor from Mount Zion General Assembly in Limpopo sprayed congregants with doom insect and defended the method as a harmless way for God to deliver people from sin. He quotes that we find that disgusting. We agree with you on that one. And then he says, the incidents have brought into question how religion should be regulated. They brought into question into how religion should be regulated. They brought nothing as evidence against the regulation of religion. Crime is crime. Unless you are saying there are religious crime, there are athletic crimes, there are social crimes. Crime is crime. And you see how he has turned around, whereas in the first paragraph, he issued a misleading statement on them regulating people and living religion. Now he's talking about the instance that brought into question how religion should be. There's nothing that has been brought to light that justifies any attempt at regulating religion. Omotoso does not represent the religious community. He represents himself. If Omotoso is guilty of all those crimes, Omotoso is on trial, must go to prison. You can't put the religion you think he represents. I've been born again for 40 years. I've been in military from the very first day we started preaching in schools. I've never abused any girl. Now, you can't regulate me because Omotoso was found to sexually abuse girls if those allegations are proven true. We'll take you up on that. Now, then he turns around as a true politician and says it has never been about regulating religion. Religion can be practiced by anyone. So it is people's behavior that needs to be regulated. Tell us how you regulate people's behavior except enforcing the present body of laws. and putting to use the present systems of law enforcement. Tell us. The abusers referred to have raised critical issues around freedom of religion. How have they raised issues of freedom of religion? When a religious man, we are living in a country where 80%, 78 to 80% of the population claim to be Christian. So basically, out of every 10 offenders, 8 are most likely to be Christian. How do you link the committing of a crime to someone's religion? And you put that as a basis to question if the religion should be regulated or not. We have maintained that there was a hidden agenda. We shall engage. We have a team of 5 advocates whose fingers are itching to lay their hands on this case. And we shall never hesitate to engage. The abusers referred to have raised critical issues around the freedom of religion and human dignity. Today, to show the hypocrisy, we've had incidents last year of deaths in South African mosques. Has anyone spoken about the regulation of Islam? Crime is crime. There is no religious crime. There is no Islamic crime. There is no Christian crime. Crime is crime. And Parliament has already told you that you need to use the present systems. You cannot come with an unworkable solution. You cannot come with an unnecessary solution. And you can never come with an unconstitutional solution. We shall engage. But then, he says something that had me thinking the whole afternoon. Professor MOSOMA says, the Commission will continue to support Cheryl Zondi, but inadequate funds prevent it from helping her financially. Now, was the Cheryl Zondi Foundation held financially by the Civil Rights Commission? Why would he even bring this issue up? We welcome any foundation said to help bring order into society. But then, why would the professor say the Commission will continue to support, but because of inadequate funds, it cannot help? Was there any expectation legally on the Civil Rights Commission to fund NGO activity around the cultural, religious, and linguistic? Maybe there's something you don't know. Did the Act mandate the Civil Rights Commission to help NGOs who function within the cultural, religious, and linguistic communities? We have asked Advocate Makola to make an inquiry with the public protector. If that was the situation, we need to investigate it. If there was a situation in the past where the Civil Rights Commission helped any NGO, then we want to know why they didn't go on a tender with those cases. Why didn't they go public? We are inviting NGOs which are involved in this particular interest areas. There is funding. Is he implying that there was funding? If he's not implying that, why would he bring the issue of funding into it? Is there any expectation by any NGO that deals with cultural, religious, and linguistic communities for the Civil Rights Commission to fund them? Did they use the money of a state or organ to fund NGO activity? This calls for an investigation. Now, it says, however, the Commission plans to strengthen its relationship with the Commission on Gender, Equality, and the SA Human Rights. We have always maintained, and we love this. We have always said the Civil Rights Commission is not the new sheriff in town. There are other agencies that they were supposed to have referred the cases to. We welcome this, but we shall have to find out if any NGO was ever funded by the Civil Rights Commission. And if the answer is no, why does he bring the issue of funding in, that we will support you, but we don't have sufficient funding? It does not. Even if there were billions of rand in the Civil Rights Commission, is the Act mandating the Civil Rights Commission to help any NGO? He continues, the new commissioners have reaffirmed their commitment to deal with a number of strategic programs, intervention, and general operations of the Commission. Part of the study is studying religious, cultural, linguistic cases over the last 5 years, how the previous commissioners approached these cases, and aiding the approach to the resolution, because they should not be hypocritical about this. Professor MOSOMA himself, if my memory serves me well, was the deputy commissioner then. So you can't talk about them studying. He knows exactly what he's talking about. But be it as it may, when you talk about religious, cultural, linguistic cases over the past 5 years, we want you to be universal in your approach. I hope you are going to also find out what has been done about South African Muslims who died in their pilgrimage to Mecca, because that should interest us. Let's bring to book any other human rights abuse. Let's bring into book any other information that could help us paint a clearer picture. Unless your definition of religion is Christianity, and your definition of Christianity are Pentecostal charismatic churches, and your definition of Pentecostal charismatic churches are your non-state churches, your independent groups, your indigenous churches. Now, they further felt that they would continue to uphold the constitutional task that the Commission has by playing a role in helping to build a united South Africa by a common loyalty to our country and all its people. This brings to an end my response, my open response to Professor MOSOMA. Advocate Macaulay is already working on that. This tape will find its way to the Civil Rights Commission. We want to engage. We say no to regulation of religion. We say no to the regulation of any religious person. It's not your job to regulate any person, to regulate any community. Enough laws exist, and I'm not calling to anybody else but Parliament. Your initial recommendations were found to be unworkable, unnecessary, and unconstitutional. And we hope, Professor MOSOMA, that this time around, all your recommendations and strategies will be workable, will be necessary, and will be constitutional. This is Dr. Shimi Chi Aobakwekotu. We are the Anti-Regulation of Religion Summit. We shall meet. Whatever doors you make open, we are prepared to engage in. But even if you shut doors in our faces, we shall meet somewhere. Parliament somewhere, Constitutional Court somewhere, meet we shall. No to regulation of religion, no to regulation of any religious person, no to funding of non-governmental organizations. And we are saying yes to your protecting and promoting cultural, religious, and linguistic rights. May the Lord let you bless you.